Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Jerry McLaughlin. I'm a midwife lecturer here in UCC. And on behalf of myself, our midwifery colleagues, Professor Josephine Hagerty would like to welcome you all here to the live debate after our trauma with COVID. We'd also like to welcome all of our delegates that are online. We have about 40 people joining us online as well today, family, friends and colleagues. It's been a while to get this together because of COVID and trying to embrace everybody being back together. But I just need to go through some little housekeeping rules, if that's okay. In the unlikely event of a fire, we have the exit at the back of the door, back of the room, and we also have a fire exit over here. We shouldn't have a fire. Everything else went wrong today, so we should be fine. The recording, the proceedings of today are going to be recorded and they will be released at a further date. But could I ask everyone please just to put their phones on silent just for the duration of the debate so that we don't have any further interruptions. I'd just like to invite our delegates from the NMBI and some of our colleagues from the health service providers here as well today. And thank you so much for embracing our future midwives really of Ireland, where they're coming with their enthusiasm to be able to present and to be able to showcase their knowledge. I'd also like to thank Sarah Benson, who's going to be sharing her expertise in relation to women in society, and also Fran McConville, who's going to be presenting live online. So we've got a lot of expertise in that joining us here today. Just while I have the stand, before I introduce our opening address from ESNE, I'd like to thank Tony Archer and his team for their support with the AV, Teresa O'Callaghan from Building and Estates in relation to organisational management and parking for the event today, and also for KSG Catering, who provided tea, coffee and cake. So without further ado, welcome to the debate. All of our guest speakers, I should have said, all have a Cork connection. So this is the real capital today, and we're going to embrace every bit of that in relation to women and health. Our judging panel, who you won't see, you'll see them leaving the room. We're going to have Denise Lawler, she's the chair of the Midwives Board in the NMBI. Sarah Benson has obliged us as the chairperson of Women's Aid, and we also have Mary Higgins, who some of you may have come across in your careers. Mary is a retired midwife and she has represented Irish midwives in the European Midwifery Board and also in the ICM, the International Confederation of Midwives, for about 6 years. So welcome to all of you, and they're going to be judging the debate. So I'm going to invite Essene Cassidy, who's the president of the NMBI, to come and do the formal opening address. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry, and thanks for the warm welcome. And I suppose there's a couple, I couldn't stand up here now with it going slightly off script for a minute or two. If I could just loop back to the idea of the mobile phones on silent. It is Friday afternoon, and I think we might give one concession that at 3 o'clock, if anyone's phone starts to vibrate, and if it's the cash call, please go and answer it within 5 minutes. 70,000 reasons to do that, and I'm sure whoever does it will be delighted to stand us all a nice cup of coffee or something afterwards. But I digress. Now, for my comms people in NMBI, you'll be delighted to know I'm going to go back and stick to the script. So good afternoon. My name is Essene Cassidy and I'm president of the Nursing and Midwifery Board. And I'm delighted to be here in Cork, and particularly to be back here in UCC for today's midwifery debate, student midwife debate. I myself am a graduate of UCC, and I suppose I'd like to just take a moment and say hello to, and maybe offer commiserations to Helen Mulcahy and Patricia Leahy-Warren, who are in the audience, who had the misfortune of guiding me through my postgraduate programme. This is a really brilliant event, and I've been very fortunate to be involved with it since 2016 when the board appointed me president. Although I'm not a midwife, I think for one day only, Dawn usually gives me a little bit of a dispensation and gives me an honorary title. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the energy and the activity this afternoon and to hear from you as the future of midwifery. The debate is organised by the Nursing and Midwifery Board, and it's in collaboration with each of the 6 education bodies that provide midwifery education, which leads to registration. And I would like to thank each member of today's debate team and their lecturers who have prepared and supported you throughout this journey. I'm going to take a moment now just to talk a little bit about midwifery as a profession. So midwives, as you know, play an instrumental role in supporting, monitoring and encouraging women and their families at all stages of a woman's pregnancy, labour and birth, and during the postnatal period. As a career, the midwifery profession is diverse and there are so many options available to you today, whether it be in clinical, in management, in education or in research. Midwifery services are beginning to move from the hospital to the acute setting, in line with the shift left and left again of the Sláinte Care initiative. And this has opened up endless opportunities for you to learn and develop and grow additional skills across different specialist areas. Midwives are so important, and the work that you do within the whole multidisciplinary team and the professional team of health and social care is to provide mothers and their families with the best information, advice and guidance. Midwives make a fundamental contribution to delivering safe and high quality care to women, babies and families in Ireland, and I think that's accepted by all of us. Now I'm going to move on and tell you a little bit about the Nursing Midwifery Board. So as you all will know, I won't do a pop quiz. The girls are looking very stressed here now at the front row. I'm not going to start shooting questions at you. The Nursing and Midwifery Board, we're the regulator of nurses and midwives in Ireland. And we have two core functions. That is protecting the public and maintaining the integrity of the professions of nursing and midwifery in their interactions with the public. That sounds very wordy, but basically it means keeping people safe, supporting the registrants and keeping them safe and allowing them to practice to the top of their licence and to be autonomous in their practice. And we achieve that by setting the standards and requirements for undergraduate and postgraduate programmes of education that lead to registration, the programmes that you yourselves are currently undertaking. And we monitor compliance with these standards to ensure that there's a positive learning environment for all our students, whether that be within the colleges, but also more importantly in the clinical placement environment. Once you are registered, we provide you with the guidance and advice to support competent practice. And our role as a regulator is to help nurses and midwives make the right decisions for their patients and in their efforts to achieve the highest quality standards of care delivery that is quality focused, patient centred and in the best interests of the person. Moving on a little bit, I'm going to talk a little bit about our register. Some of you will be familiar that we moved to a digitalised system for our register over the last 2 years. There was a little bit of pain the first year, but it was much smoother last year, and fingers, toes and everything crossed that it'll be fantastic at the renewal process this year. So we actually maintain two public registers. One is the Register of Nurses and Midwives, and the second one is a candidate register, which most of you would be on at the moment if you're studying the undergraduate programme. When you begin as an undergraduate student, you apply to the candidate register, which covers the duration of your training or your adaptation or your assessment period. Last month, we published our State of the Register report, which we intend to publish on a yearly basis. And I think it's fair to say that on behalf of the board and the executive, we're very excited about the State of the Register report. For the first time ever, we have real-time data and statistics about each of the divisions of nursing and midwifery. And we can give huge information around that will assist with workforce planning and perhaps development of specialist services and other things. So I would encourage all of you to, if you haven't read it already, to go to the website, have a look and start to see the demographics and the dynamics of each of the divisions and how that is setting out. A few key facts or takeaway facts from that published report are that there are now over 81,000 nurses and midwives registered with us in Ireland. And as of the 1st of June 2022, 9,661 of these registrants are registered in the midwifery division, with 4,561 of those people stating that they're currently practicing in midwifery. So it's that level of granular data that we can now, for the first time ever, pull out and extract from our register. I hope you're taking notes because there will be a quiz later. I'd like to give you some more details on midwifery. What we're seeing at the moment is there's a disproportionate spread of midwives on the division in the last third of their career profile. So if you like, aging out. But they're also identifying, these registrants are identifying that they're not currently practicing in midwifery. So while when you look at the data initially, you might think, gosh, that's a little bit worrying, but actually take a pause, breathe, read the next line, and you start to see that there's still a lot of people coming into the midwifery profession, and the age profiles are standing up and looking really solid. Therefore, there is a relatively healthy spread of practicing and patient facing in the younger cohorts, which is what we'd expect to see. However, it's imperative on all of you as student midwives that you are engaging in a lifelong career in midwifery. The board is now refocusing on ensuring that your journey as a student is rich, protected and enjoyable. And we sincerely want you to graduate in a timely manner and to enter the midwifery workforce, where there will be excellent opportunities for you to advance your skills, to operate to the top of your license, and perhaps to move into other areas where your midwifery skills can influence the care provision. The register also shows us that the numbers of midwives are growing each year, with 150 new registrants added last year. It also shows us that the opportunities that are there for you in the future, in your future careers, to progress and specialise are incredible. For example, there's an opportunity to move towards advanced midwifery practice or to become a midwifery tutor. I'm looking at Denise as one of my board members who is a midwifery tutor as well, holds qualification in that area, or midwifery prescribers. So there's lots of opportunities, and I suppose my ask of you would be seize the opportunity, take the leap of faith and go with it. Nearly there. So now I couldn't stand here without telling you a little bit more about the board itself and the work of the board. So as president of the Nursing and Midwifery Board, and together with our CEO, Sheila McClelland, who's here in the audience today, and our executive team, we aim to meet the needs of our registrants and our wider stakeholders. And as a board, we work collectively to maintain pride in the profession. So that goes back to our core function of maintaining the integrity of the professions. And to uphold the quality of care that is delivered. And specifically, as I talk to you today, we're talking about delivery of quality, woman-centred midwifery care. Our goal is to strengthen the board's relationships with registrants, with the public, and with our key stakeholders. And we do that by making the work of the board more accessible to you, so that you can see what we do and how we do it, and that we have given a commitment to be as transparent as we can. Supporting our work, we have a statutory committee which is called the Midwives Committee, and Denise is our chair of that committee. And this committee is set down, when I say it's a statutory committee, it's set down in legislation, and its role is to advise the board on matters relating to midwifery. One of the key documents you will all refer to throughout your careers is that of the Code of Professional Conduct and Ethics. It is the overarching constitution that supports the integrity of your practice and your professionalism, and it ensures that you and the public are kept safe. It is a principle-based document, and again, I see people looking very worried. I'm not going to start asking people to name out the principles or taking a deep dive in that. I leave that maybe to Patricia or Helen. I'm sure they would be more expert than me on that. The code is in itself, when you think about it, is a living, breathing document. And those of us that are of a certain vintage will remember going to On Board Ultronish and getting our PIN number and getting the little green book. And I love to take a moment on this, because the little green book was our Bible. And it served us really well from 1985 until 2014. At that time, the little green book was replaced by a slightly bigger green book, which was the 2014 version of the code. And those timelines are really important, because as we developed the revised code, we firmly believed that we were future-proofing a document that would serve the professions for another 15 to 20 years. Within 3 years, it became apparent that we needed to start looking at the code again, because of other changes that were happening, both legislative within the country or whether it was within the healthcare environment. So we duly revised the 2014 code The first step of that was to attach an addendum that was linked to the repeal of the 8th. And then in 2020, we came out with a revision of the code. So I suppose I'm taking a moment to labour that point because it's really to see that we all know that the workplace is changing. The work environment is changing. Nursing and midwifery is changing, and it is changing so rapidly, and particularly in the post-COVID environment, that any of our standards or our guidance documents, they have to be relevant and to be real, they have to be consistently reviewed and grow organically. So I think gone will be the days where a code will be able to stand up to guiding the professions for 10 or 15 years. One would have to assume it'll be a much shorter turnaround. Okay, so yesterday, I'll just take a moment because I know there's some people in the audience who were with us yesterday. We were actually in Tralee yesterday speaking with the midwifery profession as well. And thank you to our colleagues in Munster Technology University of Tralee who hosted us where we had a conversation about midwifery going forward, and particularly focusing on the challenges, key challenges and opportunities within midwifery, and particularly around the importance of establishment of breastfeeding and sustainable feeding for women and infants. It was our chance to meet with the profession and to listen to their views on midwifery, on women and other stakeholders and key issues that are evolving for the role. It was a really valuable conversation, and it has ensured that the voices of midwives are being heard directly by the board. So, in conclusion, finally, on a personal note, I would just like to say to the students that while your careers in nursing and midwifery might be challenging at times, you will receive you are receiving excellent training, support, guidance. And when you qualify and enter the workforce, you will continue to receive that level of expertise and support as you develop in your practice. It is such an exciting time to be qualifying as a nurse or a midwife. Somebody said yesterday they'd love to be starting all over again. And there is I think those of us that are of a slightly older vintage, we probably do look back with a degree of maybe regret or excitement for you, but actually think, God, I'd love to be here now and starting out again. My one bit of advice to you would be seize the day, enjoy every minute, and never be afraid of leaps of faith, because as a profession, you can do so much for the profession and also for women and infants by just being quality focused and really giving it your all. So enjoy every minute of your careers, but more importantly, I can't wait to hear you this afternoon, and the best of luck to everyone. Thank you.
You've got to start putting on the glasses for reading, isn't it? So I apologise. I'm going to introduce our guest speaker, Sarah Benson. And Sarah is the current Chief Executive Officer of Women's Aid here in Ireland. Women's Aid are a national organisation working to prevent and address the impact of domestic violence and abuse. They do this by advocating, influencing, training and campaigning for effective responses to reduce the scale and impacts of domestic abuse on women and children in Ireland by providing high quality, specialised integrated supported services. For 9 years prior to this role, Sarah was the Chief Executive Officer with Ruama, an Irish NGO working nationally with women and people affected by prostitution, including victims of sex trafficking. In addition, Sarah has previous experience as a manager of the National Domestic Violence Helpline and extensive work in the community and voluntary sector, both in Ireland and abroad, and worked particularly with marginalised ethnic minority women and youth. Sarah was an Irish expert on violence against women for the European Women's Lobby Observatory from 2010 to 2016, and again between 2014 and 2019 she was the chairperson of CAP International, which is a coalition of 30+ frontline services across the globe in 24 countries. She worked directly with women and people in prostitution and victims of sex trafficking. Sarah is a former Vice Chairperson of the Board of the National Women's Council of Ireland and is a current member of the Board of the Wheel. Throughout her career, Sarah's passion for human rights, social justice and equality, in particularly for women and girls, remains a constant feature. Sarah holds a Bachelor of Arts from UCD, a Master of Philosophy from Trinity College Dublin, and a Master's degree in Business from UCC. So I'd like you all to have a warm welcome now for Sarah Benson.
Thanks, Jerry, and sincere thanks to the board and the School of Nursing and Midwifery for the invitation to speak to you today. That bio gets longer and I feel older and older. You're supposed to cut it to 100 words, so I didn't think the whole thing would be read out. I apologise to anyone who's dialing in because I think because of my presentation, all you're seeing is the slides. So just to say hello to you remotely, and I will start my thing there. And just to say, I'm delighted. I'm definitely the not a ringer on the judging panel for the debate. I'll be guided wholly by my colleagues, but I'm very much looking forward to the debate. And I think it's such a healthy activity to be involved in. And my work involves a lot of debate, and it's always really important to hear all the sides of a position so that you can kind of feel solid and grounded in your own convictions going forward. So really looking forward to that. Before I kind of delve into my own presentation, I will say that I'm also a mum of two now teenagers, and I value so much the role of midwives in Ireland. My first birth delivery was, with no disrespect to the obstetric staff in the hospital, was without midwives, and then the second time round I qualified for what was, I don't know if it's still, but it was the Domino scheme in Dublin, and to say it was a completely different experience, and one where I came away feeling cared for, and the whole experience was just so much more positive and empowering for me as a mom. So I have very, very personal commitment to the work that you do, and it's lovely always to meet new people coming up into such an important profession. So that being said, I'm unfortunately not talking about such an empowering or empowered experience. On the one hand, I'm going to be talking a little bit about domestic violence and abuse, but at the same time, what I want to bring into the room is that kind of feeling that the work of Women's Aid is, as Jerry has already set out, she said a little bit about what we do, and we're not the only specialist domestic violence organisation in the country, but at the same time, we rely on growing a whole of community response to both combat and prevent and reduce the impact, the terrible impacts of domestic violence and abuse in our community. So I hope the input I give you today will not just be kind of written statistics, but much more around how we can all be a part of working together. I would also acknowledge that, you know, statistically speaking, there is no doubt that there'll be people in the room who are directly impacted by this or have somebody close to them who is impacted as well. And so I have put a few kind of leaflets and resources and things up the top there, and please do take away whatever information here today, and know that as a service we are here for everyone in the room, but we're also here for anybody who you think may need us going forward. Can I move a slide? Oh, there we go. Hang on. Yes, there we go. I'm not going to dwell on this because Jerry has effectively already read it out entirely. Women's Aid is the oldest of the domestic violence organisations. We've been around since 1974, so we're nearly at our 50th anniversary. Our national helpline has its 30th anniversary this year. We couldn't set up a national helpline until we actually had set up some structures, responses to women in the community, which we could then offer support with, because unfortunately when we were established there was really very, very little available to women who were in situations of domestic abuse in terms of even, you know, their property rights. There was no divorce, you know, in some situations, you know, access to finance was very limited. Legislation around domestic violence didn't exist. So we are very much a social change organisation that combines delivering frontline services with also looking at, okay, what's working that we need more of, where are there gaps in laws, in policies, so that we can continue to do better, so that we can get to that kind of ultimate objective of an equal Ireland with zero tolerance of all forms of violence against women, including domestic abuse. And that idea, that vision of a zero tolerance of all forms of violence against women, that is a completely abstract concept in this globe. We haven't achieved it anywhere. So that's why it's very much our vision statement, and our mission then is plugging away on the different tactics and techniques and approaches that we hope combined, working very collaboratively across our sector and with others, will help us get where we need to be. I think I need to do this every time, do I? So as I mentioned, we have our frontline services, the national helpline, probably the most relevant because that acts as a gateway to all the services around the country. We can do direct call connect. We also have over 200 languages that we can dial in on the line for women for whom English is not their first language. And then we have our instant messaging support service through our 2 websites, Women's Aid and 2Into. So that is a resource for deaf and hard of hearing women, and also particularly younger people who just, you know, sometimes that seems to be the preferred way of communication. And during COVID, it was a great asset to us to have started that project because obviously constrained circumstances during COVID-19 meant that sometimes women were very much trapped in the same, you know, even in room adjacent to somebody, and they could reach out silently and speak with us. We have a range of drop-in services in the largest family law court in Dublin. We do casework support and court accompaniment in Dublin. And then we have a high-risk support project, which is currently serving the Greater Dublin area, but it's actually just been given funding to roll out on a national basis. So that's one that we work with on Garda Síochána, and there's support from Vodafone Foundation, and that's for women and their children who post-separation, because unfortunately abuse doesn't always end at the point of separation, but it's where they're assessed as still being at very high risk of serious harm and even murder. And so that's a really important, unique project that we're delighted to be rolling out by 2024 on a national basis. We also have a maternity outreach support worker who is working as part of our maternity project at the moment, and that's a really exciting project that's 1 year in, and that is combining working with CUMH, with the Rotunda, the National Maternity Hospital, and the CUM to develop a co-created training programme for all the frontline staff, so midwives, nursing staff, obstetric staff, and then with that, for the 3 Dublin hospitals, we have a dedicated outreach worker who can get fast track referrals between social work, or in the case of the Rotunda, the midwifery nursing team for high risk women to try and ensure that they are given the interventions that they need at a particularly vulnerable moment in time. And then post separation, we have our Power to Change programme, which is much more around recovering from the trauma of the experience of abuse when you're in a safe place, and that's a peer-led facilitated programme that we've run online since COVID started. We have a range of other things that I mentioned as well. We work with employers around domestic violence policies in the workplace. We have our specialist training. I mentioned the training project, and also acknowledging our colleague from NWIP here. We're currently fulfilling a piece of work for NWIP, and we're delivering training to all of the maternity units around the country at the moment. So we've just finished our first tranche of that, and that'll be rolling out over the coming year as well. I think it's worth saying that, you know, domestic violence is just one unfortunate form of violence that exists on a spectrum of domestic, sexual and gender-based violence, and we would work very closely with our colleagues in the other domestic violence services, the sexual violence services, and those working on very specific pieces of work like female genital mutilation, like prostitution, trafficking. And while it doesn't come up so much here, there are also issues with so-called honour crimes and things like that. They all form part of what we refer to as domestic, sexual and gender-based violence. And the fact is, unfortunately, that we're not just talking about violence against women. We are talking about male violence against women, but in our discussions and even our dialogue with men's organisations, who we would work closely with, the likes of the Men's Development Network and others, is the recognition that the vast majority of violence against women and girls is perpetrated by men, but the vast majority of violence against men and boys is also perpetrated by men. And with working together as a society to combat male violence against women, you're actually also targeting the same unhelpful, negative stereotypes of what is masculinity, what is, you know, it is to be, you know, have a healthy expression of masculinity, also actually contributes directly to combating male violence against men as well. And according to the Gardaí, you know, that is the reality that comes through with our particular area of work, is that female victims of assault are almost exclusively, based on the recent Garda statistics and report, attacked by partners, former partners or other family members, whereas men's experience of violence is actually the exact opposite, more likely to be in a public place, more likely to be somebody who's not actually directly related to them or even known to them. There are some statistics there. I'm not going to dwell on them too much. Unfortunately, though, what it does tell us is that our work as part of our 2 Into You project, which is specifically to kind of support and raise awareness with young people 18 to 25 and increasingly with more teenage communities as well, is that this isn't something that is going away. We found from recent research of 18 to 25s that 1 in 5 young women will have experienced abuse from a current or former partner by the age of 25, and 51% of those young women experienced it first under the age of 18. And that then compares to 1 in 11 young men. So it isn't to say that it doesn't occur for young men as well. And of course, it happens in LGBT communities, but this is something that disproportionately impacts women in heterosexual relationships. And unfortunately, again, the issues around sexual coercion and those experiences, which will show up in some cases through your own frontline work and also through the termination pregnancy clinics as well. So these are things that do impact us and impact people we care about. And really what we would be saying is, this isn't something that we're aging out of as a society, and it's something we really need urgently to work on to help ourselves, help others, and also protect future generations as well. One of the interesting things, sometimes people are asked, like, how do you actually define domestic violence? And actually, until quite recently, we didn't have a crime of domestic violence. And in fact, we don't still have a crime of domestic violence in this country, but we do have something that is very, very close, which is the crime of coercive control. We are, unlike many other jurisdictions in having this, England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, all have a crime of coercive control as well, but most other countries actually don't. And why it's so valuable to us is that it actually recognises that domestic violence is not a once-off incident. Very often it doesn't include physical violence, or maybe a single act of physical violence with a threat that carries through with a whole other pattern of behaviours which have as their impact one person in the relationship increasingly through coercion or control or both taking power and control over another person's movements and even up to and including their sense of self. So it can include all the forms of domestic abuse, which would be economic abuse, emotional, physical, sexual, or it can be a combination of those by a current or former partner. And it has that consequence of actually trapping somebody in a relationship, and the longer somebody's in that situation, the harder it can be for them to get out of it, and indeed the more dangerous it can be. So some of the impacts, you know, I've kind of spoken about them then, but it's referred to often as a liberty crime, in that it makes somebody's world smaller. It cuts them off. It cuts them off from people who care about them. It also cuts them off from seeing other normal relationships, healthy relationships, and it keeps them on their toes so much that it's very hard to cope more than day to day, sometimes hour to hour. And so for us, in terms of recognising, intervening, we need to recognise that it can be the impact. Somebody may be in a very hypervigilant state, or simply does not see the wood for the trees, and that's where we as objective supports can be there to help. So really, as I say, we were talking about, we cannot do it on our own. There's absolutely no way on earth. This is a whole of society response that's required. Specific to your roles in terms of pregnancy has been identified as a high risk period when domestic abuse may intensify. Interestingly, statistics are now varying a little bit as to whether it is more likely to increase or not. So we don't come down definitively on that, but a conservative estimate would be that 1 in 10 women will experience domestic abuse when pregnant. And it can often it actually be statistically more likely than preeclampsia, which I was really shocked when I heard that statistic, and gestational diabetes as well. So it is something that's common. What we are trying to do with our work with the maternity sector, for want of a better word, is actually really try and reframe domestic violence as a public health issue. It's not a social issue. It has real health consequences. And for your work and others, that's how we would like to encourage you to think about it. This is a public health issue, just the same as preeclampsia. Now, the response might be different, but it's, you know, the risks are very real in terms of to mother and infant health. We also know that women who are experiencing intimate partner violence are more likely to report an unwanted pregnancy or to have an unplanned pregnancy. They're twice as likely not to attend antenatal care until the 3rd trimester, and they're more likely to miss 3 or more antenatal appointments. And they're also up to 3 times more likely to experience postnatal depression or anxiety. And I think that's something, again, that often we find postpartum is used then by abusers to actually tell women that they're crazy or they're not coping, whereas actually it's a direct causal relationship between the behaviour that's happening. So in a midwifery setting, in a maternity setting, there's things that you can be alert to. These are just little snapshots, but I'm happy to make the slides available. And I hope at some point you'll be able to actually avail of the training with us, or hopefully if our maternity project is successful with our colleagues, we want to make the case for this to be a mainstreamed integrated training, which is co-created with our colleagues in the maternity hospitals. But there are things that you can watch out for, such as missed antenatal appointments, late presentation, and also knowing that, you know, those opportunities where a woman may be presenting and her partner isn't present are really, really crucial moments in time, because those who are being subjected to abuse may have difficulty accessing services and they may be actually prevented from accessing them. But there is a real genuine opportunity there for those who are in that setting to actually recognise and encourage a safe disclosure. And we know that that routine inquiry, the universal question, is a helpful tool in terms of eliciting that. But what we also know is that sometimes somebody may not disclose at the first opportunity. So actually, you know, advocating more and more for weaving that in at several points in time during pregnancy does really increase those opportunities. We know that there's huge fears around what will happen, will my partner find out, you know, and actually as part of our evaluation of the training we're doing with NWIP and the maternity project, we're trying through the independent evaluation of the project to identify what are the things that are of most concern to women, why will they not disclose, and look at structural and systemic ways that can be mitigated in the system. We know, for example, that there is a unique identifier in data, but if women don't know that this isn't going to show up on my file, it's actually simple things like saying, if you tell me, just so you know, it will never show up on your file as this, you know, it'll show up as a letter or something random. So these, I hope, will be useful things for you in your profession going forward. I put this in here, but I'm not going to talk to it. It's just people sometimes get a little overwhelmed on an issue like this, going, oh my gosh, what if somebody does say something to me? And it doesn't have to be in the context of work. It could be through, you know, a family connection, a friend, a colleague. And it's like this overwhelm of what on earth do I do? If I find out, then what next? And that can actually inhibit somebody from even asking if they are worried about somebody else. But actually, you know, more than anything, listening is the most helpful thing you can do. You do not have to be a specialist. You do not have to know all the answers. You do not have to know the law. That's what our job is. And that's why we're there, you know, for signposting. But really that thing of listening, being non-judgmental and validating someone's just, you know, choice to disclose. And even if they don't want to say any more at that moment in time, leaving that door open and knowing that if they come back to you, again, you do not have to be the expert. In fact, you know, that's not actually even the most helpful thing to try to be. It's simply to be there, to be discreet, to respect that they are sharing something, and then just to have the information, which might be just, you know, have you checked out womensaid.ie, or do you know Coonsair? They're just down the road here in Cork, you know, just having that information. And, you know, that can be a big relief to people, is that dealing with this issue doesn't mean having to be an expert on it at all. And this is really what we're modelling. It's at the one time we're talking about, you know, that coercive control, the power and control, and all of the different tactics there. But it's really important that we remember that there's the other side of it. We can't always talk about what's bad. We also need to talk about what's normal, what's healthy, what's good. And I've left a bunch of our little bookmarks that people really like, which is healthy and unhealthy relationships. It's not as in-depth as these, which are developed by a project in Duluth in Minnesota. They have wheels for everything, but these are the two I like the best because they're the two mirrors of each other. And very often if someone's in an abusive relationship, what they're experiencing is everything that's going on in the power and control wheel. What they're being isolated from is seeing and witnessing and hearing about actually what their relationship should be like and what is healthy. So I put those in there because I think it's always good to you know, that this is what's wrong, but then actually this is what we really are looking for: trust, support, respect, you know, negotiation and fairness, compromise. And particularly in younger relationships, there are opportunities. You know, there's like a fork in the road where a relationship might have some warning signs, and then it comes down to that key one of negotiation and fairness, where, you know, for young people's relationships, it could be the first relationship for both. And, you know, somebody may be behaving in an abusive way, but if they're told, look, you know, I really need to be able to go out with my friends and it's not a big deal, or, you know, if I don't answer a message within, you know, 20 minutes or an hour or overnight, that has to be okay, because like I don't live on my phone. And if they go, okay, listen, sorry, that was a bit full on, I take that on board. Then you're, correcting what could be going on to a bad path. So it's always good to know where you would like something to go, but if it doesn't and they keep doubling down, then maybe that the relationship is getting into really unhealthy territory. I mentioned the 2 Into You as well because you're all young people. And we have a separate dedicated website, which is 2intoyou.ie. It uses different language, which we developed through focus groups with young adults, because domestic doesn't really, most young people aren't living with their partner. Violence tends to kind of bring people into thinking about it's only physical abuse. So we came up with, through them, it was intimate relationship abuse, because toxic relationships can be anything. They don't have to just be intimate relationships. So we have a lot of different resources. We have resources around digital safety, online safety. We'll have a launch of a new website next week. So I'd encourage you to have a look at that on Instagram and all over the place as well. And I suppose this is the kind of thing I want to leave us with, which is we can feel very overwhelmed when you're talking about an issue like this, and then you're adding other issues that are particularly impacting on women, all over the world. And it can feel very like, this is really disheartening, but actually, we've made so much progress. Women's Aid, founded in 1974, as I say, when you look at where we have come since then, even taking one example that was mentioned with the repeal of the 8th, we are incrementally moving forward. Would be good to move faster, and that's why we're increasingly calling on, the whole community, but also men in particular, to work with us, because we are increasingly saying this is good for men too. This is really good for young boys. They don't get to express themselves authentically if there's this narrow kind of hypermasculine, anger as the acceptable expression of emotion, but other emotions are not encouraged. That's not good for any of us. And also, most, if not all, men are actually touched by male abuse of women. It could be a sister, it could be, a former partner, it could be their mother. This is something that they actually do have a stake in as well. And we have found having these conversations increasingly, and particularly since the awful murder of Aisling Murphy, we're talking more and more with men who are really keen to get on board. But at the same time, because this is a male issue, but it is very much a collective action, and really I'm talking about men or women, but it's non-binary people, everybody. This is actually us all working together, just to make the world a little bit safer and more equal. And these are other things that you can do outside of, your own profession, is really, as I say, find out more. There's loads of information on our website. There's also the information on all of the other services around the country, or there's our colleagues in Safe Ireland. They have a website as well. And stillhere.ie by the government has not just the domestic, but also the sexual violence organisations. But really, it's about opening up the conversation, taking something that maybe sparked with you today, having a conversation with somebody you think might be interested, and saying, look, really, we could do more to call out this misogyny and inequality. It's because it's at those early kind of acorn stages that we get in, because people don't wake up as abusive. They don't wake up as violent. It's an incremental development over time. And there are moments that we can intervene to say, oh, that's not cool, and it does make people stop and think. It's where things, there's a great phrase, to say nothing is to say something, and to do nothing is to do something. And really, I think we're at the stage where it's like, we can't sit by. Just because I'm not racist doesn't mean that I can sit by and hear somebody else be racist without saying, no, hang on, that's not okay. So the same goes with sexism as well, and misogyny. And I would also really, really encourage you. Your work is tough. And if we're asking you also to take on this one as well, is don't forget to mind yourself. I love this. I know she's not, but it looks like she's wearing scrubs, which is why I always use this when I'm talking to health professionals. But Audre Lorde couldn't be more right. It is an absolute act of self-preservation and political warfare to care for yourself, because you cannot go out and do what you need to do, not just on combating violence against women, but what you need to do without making sure you look after yourselves first. So I'd really encourage you to do that. And I put this here for sharing afterwards, so you can keep in touch and hopefully get involved. And we have campaigns and things all the time. So even if you're just sharing something on Snapchat or Instagram, that's very much a part of working together. So thank you again for your attention. I think a couple of minutes for questions if anyone has any, but that is me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I don't know if anybody's got any questions for Sarah they'd like to ask, or shall we? We'll go straight in. Well, Sarah will be around anyway, so thank you. So, speakers, take the floor, take your seats. Okay. So while you're taking your seats, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dawn Johnston. I'm the Director of Midwifery at NMBI. And particular thanks to UCC. You've done us really proud today. Thank you. Just to say, this debate was first held in 2012. And it's been held every year except in 2020. For obvious reasons, and this is our first time in Cork. We've only recently started having a judging panel, and you've already been introduced to the judging panel. I'd just like to say Mary Higgins was also a trustee recently of the Cork Women's Domestic Violence Group, sexual violence group, until very recently. And so knows the subject well. So we'll move on to the debate. A debate is a process that requires formal discourse on a contentious matter. And the motion for today's debate is: this House believes that the diminishing normal birth rate is a threat to the midwifery profession. So there will be differing opinions about this motion, and arguments are put forward to support the motion or to oppose the motion. And we've got two teams and 6 speakers, and this debate is undertaken, as you heard earlier, in collaboration with the 6 education boards in Ireland who provide midwifery education programmes. Now, just to go through the rules, which are few, the debate will open with the speaker from the team supporting the motion, and then there will be a speaker opposing the motion. And this will continue until all team members have spoken. Each speaker will be allowed to speak for 5 minutes only. You will get a warning at 4 minutes, and then a louder warning at 5 minutes, and I will stand up and you will stop talking. When all the speakers have spoken, each team will prepare a rebuttal, which you'll have 5 minutes to prepare only. And the rebuttal will be for up to 5 minutes, and the team supporting the motion will rebut first. And following this, you can relax. Our judges will adjourn to select the winning team and the best speaker. So I wish you all the best of luck. So I'm going to start by introducing the first speaker. And the first speaker is Nadia Hutton, who's from Trinity College Dublin, and she is a 3rd-year student who is going to speak to support the motion. And take your place here. And okay, so do begin speaking.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, adjudicators and members of the opposing team. My name is Nadia Hutton. I am a 3rd-year midwifery student representing the School of Nursing and Midwifery in Trinity College Dublin. Myself and my teammates Laura and Claudia fully support the motion that the diminishing normal birth rate is a threat to the midwifery profession. I am a midwife. My care combines art and science. As a midwife, my care is holistic and woman-centred. It is grounded in an understanding of the social, emotional, cultural, spiritual, psychological and physical experiences of women. My practice promotes and protects pregnancy and childbirth as a healthy, normal, physiological event and a profound event in a woman's life. This is supported by our own midwife registration programme and standards set by the NMBI. This belief is also shared with the International Confederation of Midwives. I am a midwife and everything that I am is threatened. Normal birth, according to Beverly Beach, means a physiological birth where the baby is delivered vaginally following a labour which has not been altered by technological interventions. I think it's obvious to us all here that the diminishing normal birth rate is a threat to our profession. The evidence is overwhelming. As Haley et al. Pointed out, midwives need better models of care as their professional identity is in jeopardy. I think to argue any different can only be assumed to come from a place of fear. Are midwives more fearful of the power hierarchy that exists in the current institutions? They have lost their core values that led us to be midwives in the first place, to be with women, to be autonomous practitioners, to be advocates and understand, most importantly, that birth is a normal physiological life event. A woman giving birth is not a hospital chart number, nor is she the failure to progress woman in room 4. She is a human being, not a machine and not a container for making babies. Have we removed ourselves so much from midwifery that we have forgot that as a majority, women are capable of giving birth just as they have done for thousands of years? If we hand over our expertise and our knowledge, we lose the very thing that makes midwifery a unique and distinct profession that is separate to our obstetric colleagues. We are not obstetric nurses. This distrust in our autonomy as midwives and our capabilities as midwives and our distrust in women's bodies is a very real threat to our profession. Childbirth should be one of the most transformative times in a woman's life. It should be safe and remembered with love. There is absolutely no doubt that we all want mothers and babies to be born healthy and safe. And while we are so grateful for the medical advances and intervention that some women may need, we need to take a step back and reevaluate what is occurring within maternity services today. While we understand the maternal population is becoming more complex, we need to question the normalising of intervention and climbing caesarean section rates. They are fast becoming the norm in Ireland and across Europe. Are we managing women's bodies to function within accepted boundaries? Women's individual physiological variations are not tolerated and instead are being treated as complications. As a profession, we need to be able to make the distinction here between the norm and the normal. Our maternity services are governed under a system of risk. In fact, our own national maternity strategy, Care Pathway, refers to normal risk. What has happened to normal or healthy pregnancy? The same strategy uses terms such as birthing centres or home away from home. How can we even argue that our profession isn't under threat when our very own government policies won't even use the term midwifery-led or normal? A crucial aspect of the systemic attack, and we really can't call it anything else, on the profession is a student's ability to participate and witness normal physiological birth. Students work nights and weekends to try and obtain normality. Why is that? I would argue that in the depths of the night, when the institution rests and the conveyor belt system slows, the midwives of this country get to facilitate normality on a woman's terms. If midwives and midwifery students do not witness and participate in normal physiological birth, we risk losing midwifery skills that are distinct. If we do not see physiological birth, we are at risk of becoming de-skilled, not just in practice, but in terms of mentorship. I am a midwife, I am with women, and I am so immensely proud to do so. There's no doubt that our profession is under threat, but most importantly, as a result of this, the very women that we took an oath to protect are threatened. To quote Hannah Dallin, a woman's birth experience is about who she is, it's about who she becomes, it defines her, unmakes her and remakes her, it unravels her and puts her back together. I'd like to finish by asking you all here, are the decisions being made in institutions and politically supporting this? Are they supporting us as an autonomous profession?
Thank you, Nadia. So the first speaker to oppose the motion is Kayla Timothy, who's from University of Limerick, and she's a third year BSc student. Thank you, Kayla.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairperson, adjudicators, members of the proposing team, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kayla Timothy and I'm a third year midwifery student proudly representing the University of Limerick today. Myself and my teammates, Hannah and Leah, are here today to strongly oppose the motion that this House believes that the diminishing normal birth rate is a threat to the midwifery profession. Throughout this debate, my team and I will convince you as to why we believe it is not a threat to the midwifery profession. I will be discussing the autonomous and expanding role of the midwife. My teammate Leah from the University College Dublin will give you insight into the societal factors and changing demographics, which influence our practice and the mode of birth. Hannah from the University of Galway will demonstrate why there is a need for a better birth rate with reference to the National Maternity Strategy. As we are aware, the term midwife means with woman. The Office of the Nursing and Midwifery Services Director discusses how we, as midwives, recognise pregnancy, labour and childbirth, along with the postpartum period, as a profound, healthy experience in the woman's life. The midwife works with women to support mother and baby, not just at birth, but throughout the whole pregnancy journey. Renfrew et al. Published a series in 2014 regarding midwifery and quality care. In this series, midwifery was defined as the skilled, knowledgeable and compassionate care provided to women, newborns and their families. This care is not only provided in the intrapartum period, but right through from preconception up to 6 weeks postpartum. Therefore, I asked the proposing team, how is the diminishing normal birth rate a threat to the midwifery profession when our role expands so much further than just assisting women during labour? The Nursing and Midwifery Board of Ireland, in its standards and guidance, clearly states that midwives are the most appropriate care providers to attend women throughout pregnancy, during birth and postnatally. Midwives recognise normal and abnormal pathways and, when required, escalate care and collaborate with members of the multidisciplinary team. The role of the midwife has expanded to empower women to take responsibility of their bodies, their families and the health of their families. As midwives, we advocate on behalf of women and their babies, protecting their rights and interests. This includes the woman's right to choose how and where she gives birth. The midwife provides women with adequate evidence-based information, empowering them to make informed decisions. The woman's decision should be respected and supported, regardless of the pathway she is on. Whether the woman is having a spontaneous vaginal delivery, an instrumental delivery, induction of labour, or a caesarean section, the midwife will always play an active role in the care of the woman and her baby. The midwife establishes maternal and fetal well-being, advocates on behalf of women, carries out medication management, facilitates skin-to-skin contact, and promotes breastfeeding. This is only a small example of the diverse roles and responsibilities of the midwife. The role of the midwife is a role that never goes unnoticed by both women and their families. The findings of the National Maternity Experience Survey 2020 reflect this. One example from a birthing mother stated that her whole experience was positive and thorough, and that the midwives were especially supportive. Even when her labour was induced, another woman commented that the midwives kept her calm, relaxed and informed throughout. Therefore, I asked the proposing team to consider the profound role of midwives and the impact they have on people's lives. Surely it is more than a birth statistic. The National Advanced Midwife Practitioner Conference, held in September of this year, showcased that the role of the midwife encompassed so much more than being a birth attendant. The future is evolving for midwives, and we welcome the expansion of the midwifery profession to encompass registered advanced midwife practitioners for women with normal, moderate and high-risk pregnancies, which Hannah will discuss further. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I encourage you to draw on the evidence I provided. This team will demonstrate the depth and the breadth of the role of the midwife. Our remit is greater than assisting with birth. Let us, as the next generation of midwives, continue to make a difference, further develop this great role, expand our autonomy and focus on promoting normality, not just at birth, but in every aspect of our role. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kyla. Now from Cork, from UCC, we've got Laura O'Sullivan, and Laura O'Sullivan is a second-year student midwife. And come and take the stand.
Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, adjudicators and members of the opposition. My name is Laura O'Sullivan, a proud representative of UCC, and I am in full support of this motion. Alongside my colleagues Nadia and Claudia, I am here to prove to you that the diminishing normal birth rate is indeed a threat to the midwifery profession. I am a midwife, a professional in my own right who has proudly taken an oath to be with women and promote normal birth. I advocate for women and I empower women to achieve a healthy, safe and fulfilling birth. But as I stand in a room full of my colleagues today, I see fear, doubt, uncertainty. Have we lost trust in our own abilities to support women to achieve a normal birth? There is no denying that we live in a society where we now see more women presenting to the maternity services that pose a higher risk. The very fact that we are even seeing these women presenting to our services is undoubtedly thanks to how safe multidisciplinary care, interventions and technology have made birth for these higher risk women. However, this increase in comorbidities does not correlate with the stark increase we have seen in intervention over this same time period. So what has happened? Why are we intervening in something so heavily, something that we fundamentally believe to be safe and normal for our low-risk women? We have found ourselves on a slippery slope of heavy intervention. Our profession has become constrained to an environment that wants us to monitor, risk assess, and intervene heavily and often unnecessarily. An environment that, at its core, makes it so difficult for us professionals to utilise our unique skills and work to the best of our abilities. I truly believe that we have lost trust in ourselves. We've allowed ourselves to become conditioned to trust intervention more than a woman's own ability to birth her baby. Yet, for some reason, we ignore the fact that we all know these very interventions carry much more risk than a normal birth itself. Because of this lack of trust in ourselves, we've clung to this idea of birth being risky. We've allowed ourselves to become afraid of the what ifs. Yet, we all know that nothing we do in any walk of life comes without some form of risk. We have become so preoccupied with the perception of risk that we are now adopting this interventionist model of care just in case, out of our fear of risk. I ask you if this incessant perception of risk is really rational. Alongside the system we work in, we've also had to endure so much scrutiny from the media. All we have heard about our profession is how many times things have gone wrong and how we just need to do better. There is no denying that our women deserve better than these horrific stories, and there is always room for improvement in any profession. But we cannot allow these narratives to diminish us as professionals or the chances of our women achieving that normal holistic birth. Now, more than ever, we need to have self-efficacy for both ourselves and our women. I truly believe that we as a society have all become more afraid of birth than ever before. But we don't have to be. We need to remember that birth is normal. In fact, it's one of the most natural things that happens in this world. We need to stop doubting ourselves, our profession, but most importantly, our women. We are trained for this, and our women are built for this. For when we let go of fear, doubt, and uncertainty, we can show the world that our profession matters. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura. So now we've got Leah Keogh, who's from UCD Dublin, and she is a fourth year student midwife. And please come to the lectern. Leah, please begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leah Keogh, and I'm a fourth year student of midwifery representing University College Dublin. Myself and my teammates, Hannah and Kayla, are here today to strongly oppose the motion that the diminishing normal birth rates are a threat to the midwifery profession. I am here today to discuss the changing demographics and societal factors that are impacting women's pregnancies today and show you that these are in no way a threat to our profession. Population health profiles, demographics, and societal factors are ever changing, resulting in an increase in complications such as assisted births. I have chosen to focus on obesity, advanced maternal age, the increasing use of assisted reproduction, and the demands of a multicultural society. These changes have an undeniable impact on the birth statistics, altering pregnancy outcomes and contributing to more complicated births. Every woman has the right to a midwife who can care for her in every aspect, regardless of her risk factors. I will be exploring these particular risk factors in greater depth and arguing that the diminishing normal birth rate due to these influences are not a threat to the midwifery profession. Let's look at obesity. Obesity during pregnancy is a growing concern in maternity care. A recent study carried out by UCD found that 1 in 6 women presenting for antenatal care is considered obese, and that these women are twice as likely to require a cesarean section. Maternal age. This has increased. In fact, predominantly first-time mothers are older than in the past. For example, the average age of mothers at maternity in Ireland was 32.9 years. As we know, giving birth at an advanced maternal age presents challenges for women and their midwives as they may require assisted delivery. Fertility treatments, these have also increased. The number of treatment cycles per annum in Ireland increased by nearly 4,000 in a 10-year period. As we know, IVF treatments increase the risks of complications. For example, it increases the likelihood of a woman having a twin or triplet pregnancy. This may add a layer of complications to both the pregnancy and the birth. Now for the changing demographics. Today, Ireland is recognised as a multicultural society, and women with a wide variety of ethnicities and diversity attend for maternity care. Evidence has shown that some ethnicities are at higher risk for particular complications. For example, non-Caucasian ethnicities are at high risk of diabetes, which can increase the chance of having a macrosomic baby, who therefore may require an instrumental delivery. However, with multidisciplinary teamwork, many of these babies are born vaginally. I know I presented a considerable amount of information to you, but these are undisputable factors that have a huge impact on the outcomes of women's births and are by no means a threat to the midwifery profession. We have evolved with these changes, and our scope has broadened to effectively care for these women. A quote I've taken from the NMBI states, "It is essential for each nurse and midwife to engage in continuous professional development following their registration in order to acquire new knowledge and competence to practice in an ever-changing healthcare environment." This point in itself shows that midwives are continuously advancing and moulding their practice due to the changing circumstances of the women we care for. Our role as midwives is continuously evolving in complex maternity care with advancements in practice through education and training. We are continuously doing so to help overcome any barriers that may arise in providing care to these women. It is such an opportunity for us to evolve midwifery care and incorporate this into every pregnancy, regardless of how she births her baby. Yes, women's pregnancies may require more obstetric involvement and intervention compared to years previous, but this is in no way a threat to our profession. Midwives are highly skilled professionals who can and do effectively care for these high-risk complex women and will continue to do so in years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. So now our last speaker supporting the motion is Claudia Donnelly, who's come from Dundalk, DKIT, and she is a third-year student midwife. And please start speaking.
Chairperson, adjudicators, members of the opposition, ladies and gentlemen of the audience. My name is Claudia Donnelly, third year direct entry midwifery student from Dundalk Institute of Technology. Today, with my colleagues Laura and Nadia, we are supporting the motion that diminishing normal birth rate is a threat to the midwifery profession. So what is normal birth? Supporting Nadia's previous point on normal, the World Health Organization defines normal birth as spontaneous in onset, low risk at the start of labour and remaining so throughout labour and delivery. Although this is evidently logical and acceptable, it is crucial to recognise that normal is different for everybody. All of us here today define normal differently. Whether it's a normal household or normal clothes, normal does not fit into one box, just like women do not fit into one box. As a midwife, I support the woman's wishes, birth preferences and choice. A working with pain labour could be normal to one woman, whereas an epidural could be normal to another woman. And I support and respect that choice, as long as it is an informed decision. However, what is not normal is a woman being infused with synthetic oxytocin. What is not normal is an instrumental birth. What is not normal is surgical incisions in the form of episiotomy. Tell me, what is normal about physically making an incision into a woman's perineum? Nothing. Don't get me wrong, medicalisation saves lives, no doubt. I say that with gratitude as it saves the women in my care, because I am with women, I am a midwife. However, I can't help but think, could these interventions be avoided or at least reduced? The answer is yes. Studies show that the administration of an epidural increases the risk of instrumental births and cesarean sections. Where is the health promotion and education that women are more than capable to experience a normal birth just like our bodies are designed to do? Are these women in our care truly receiving informed consent on the pros and cons of these interventions? Well, in my experience so far in practice, I can tell you they are not. It's a conveyor belt of sign the dotted line. This now medicalised birth plan and resulting diminished normal birth rate is a threat to my professional role. Now, I am not naive. I am wholeheartedly aware that us midwives have a part to play in this. Defensive medicine snowballs our fear and distrust in ourselves and aids the pathway to our own downfall. But this doubt and worry did not stem from the oblivion. We are conditioned due to being a product of our environment, an environment of lack of belief in women's strength and midwife skills. As a student midwife, I have seen women encouraged to receive the epidural when it wasn't their preference. You're in so much distress, why wouldn't you want the epidural? They reluctantly agree. I need to make a small cut down here. They reluctantly agree. I could go on with everyday examples from clinical practice, but why aren't we all working under the same standards? We don't have our national practice standards set out for us midwives for the fun of it. We need to break the chain. We need to go back to basics. We need to recognise that sometimes it is us that are a threat to our own profession. It's time to change the narrative. Why do we have our own scope of practice set out by the Nursing and Midwifery Board of Ireland? Why do we have a 4-year direct entry programme solely for midwifery? Why do we have 2 successful midwifery-led units with excellent outcomes and amazing mother and family satisfaction? Because we matter and we are needed. In this day and age, we certainly could be fully consultant-led. We could be fully medicalised and interfering with every pregnancy and birth. As my colleague said, we are not obstetric nurses. So why aren't we? Because midwives are vital to maternity services. We are the core. We need to remind ourselves that we are autonomous professionals who are the most appropriate care providers to attend women during pregnancy, labour, birth and the postpartum period. And we work in collaboration with healthcare professionals when required. We are a member of the multidisciplinary team. We are not dominated by them. We are not doctors' assistants who watch them tick boxes and be bystanders. We are midwives who advocate for women and hold an extensive amount of knowledge and skill. We support women emotionally, spiritually and mentally, even on our hardest days. We need to protect our wonderful profession by improving and maintaining education, distilling belief and power into our students and staff members that we are capable, that we are midwives. We need better working conditions to utilise, recognise and promote our services. The evidence in this topic is overwhelming, and quite frankly, I'm unsure as to why we're actually having this debate in the first place. It should be obvious to all involved with midwifery that the diminishing normal birth rates is a threat to the midwifery profession. We suggest that if you do not believe so, maybe you are part of the problem as opposed to part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. So the final speaker who is opposing the motion is Hannah Flaherty, who's from University Galway, and she is a third-year student midwife.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hannah Flaherty and I'm a third-year midwifery student representing the University of Galway. Today, I will also be opposing the motion that the diminishing normal birth rate is a threat to the midwifery profession. As noted by Kayla, I will be discussing the role of advanced midwife practitioners, the National Maternity Strategy, and the benefits of continuity of care and midwifery-led care. What does the future of midwifery look like to you? In my opinion, it looks extremely promising. Kayla has told us how the midwife's role is more than being a birth attendant, and Leah has outlined how birth reflects our ever-changing modern society. As midwives, it is our duty to advance our professional development and knowledge to evolve with these changes. If there was a threat to our profession, would we all be sitting here today? We work within our scope of practice, escalating care to the multidisciplinary team when required. Look how far we have come, working alongside our obstetric colleagues in partnership. If the midwifery profession was threatened, why would advanced midwife practitioners exist? According to the NMBI 2018 guideline, an AMP offers healthcare interventions, has advanced clinical knowledge and are experts in their field. This shows that AMPs have a role in supporting people experiencing complex pregnancies. The HSE also recommends that midwives should be proactive and continue to develop and expand their role. Does this advancement seem like a threat to the profession to you? Does the proposing team truly believe that just because there is a diminishing normal birth rate that our profession will one day be obsolete? We've looked at the present. Let's look to the future. The National Maternity Strategy aims to ensure women and families have high quality care throughout the maternity services. The role of the midwife is emphasised throughout. Midwives are relevant to all care pathways. This report highlights the future of maternity care in Ireland and highlights the importance of a midwife being present throughout the women's experiences of pregnancy, childbirth and the postnatal period, regardless how complex their birth may be. In the National Maternity Strategy, one of the priority outlined is that continuity of care will be a feature of all care pathways and settings. A view also supported by the International Confederation of Midwives that recognises midwives as the professionals of choice for women throughout the world. Diminishing profession? I think not. How could there be a threat to our midwifery profession if our governing bodies state that there is a need for more midwifery-based care? Why do we suggest that midwifery is not in danger? Let's turn it on its head and see what midwifery can achieve. The MidU study carried out by researchers in Trinity College Dublin addresses the gap in research about midwifery-led care in Ireland. The results of the study have shown that midwifery-led care is as safe as obstetric-led care. Less interventions, less use of pain relief, and greater satisfaction with care. This study recommended improvement in the level of continuity and one-to-one care. According to a Cochrane review by Sandel et al. In 2016, continuity of care leads to improved outcomes such as reduction in epidural use, fewer episiotomies, fewer instrumental births, and increased breastfeeding rates. This is achieved by midwives and their expanding role. We believe that continuity of care is a particularly important aspect of the future development of midwifery. Midwife means with woman, therefore midwives will always be a necessity. As Kayla has outlined, our role as a midwife encompasses more than being a birth attendant, from preconception to facilitating the baby's normal adaptation to life and women's transition to motherhood and beyond. Here we have midwives enhancing midwifery care, not diminishing it. As Leah has discussed, the changing demographics and societal factors have a significant impact on women's experiences and how they birth, which propels midwives to the forefront of changing demographics. We are excited as student midwives to embrace the future of midwifery and are professionally developing our skills of adaptability, flexibility, advocacy, and problem solving. We welcome change and the opportunity to push the boundaries ever forward, supporting birth and not diminishing midwifery. I hope that you have enjoyed our debate today and are now convinced that the diminishing normal birth rate is not a threat to the midwifery profession, but an enhancement of it. Thank you for listening.
So now we have 5 minutes for the teams to huddle together and to prepare their rebuttal. Perhaps I could just ask people here, just light conversation so they can't hear each other. And can the timers start timing again, please? 5 minutes. Okay, so yeah, 5 minutes is up, ladies and gentlemen. So Nadia, you are first to come and, Laura, you're the first to come and do the rebuttal, and you have 5 minutes. Okay, and I'll let you know, I'll tell the timers when to start. Okay, please start.
In this rebuttal, I wanted to come to you guys and I wanted to acknowledge all of the points that the wonderful opposing team have made. While so much of what they have said is correct, I did want to start out by saying that we are not just birth attendants. We are midwives. While a birth attendant's role may be increasing, we are still midwives at our core. We believe in normal. The midwife's role may be expanding, but under whose terms? Where are we working? Where are we seeing our women? In obstetric-led care. So where is this choice that they speak of? This choice for women? How do women truly have a choice if the only place they can see us is in a hospital setting? How do women truly have a choice if there are 2 midwifery-led birthing centres in this country? How is that choice for our women? How is that autonomy for our profession? And what about home births? Where are they? If our women don't live within about a 30-minute radius from a hospital, are they not entitled to a home birth? Do they just have to come to our obstetric-led unit and be at risk of all of these higher interventions? While the risk factors may have changed for our women, and we wholeheartedly agree that we are seeing women presenting to our services that do pose a higher risk, like I said in my debate, this doesn't correlate with the stark increase in intervention that we have seen in this same time frame. So where is that intervention going? That intervention is intervening on these normal risk women, these normal births. These women are not getting this normal. Thank you.
Okay, and it's Kayla who's going to do the rebuttal for the opposing team. Yes. Okay, do start with it.
Madam Chairperson, adjudicators and members of the proposing team, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the arguments we have put forward today. The proposition have made some strong points today. However, we, the opposing team, remain convinced and have proven strongly that the diminishing normal birth rate is not a threat to the midwifery profession. Leah's compelling argument discussed how midwives have adapted to the societal factors and changing demographics which influence midwifery practice and therefore impact the mode of birth. Midwifery practice has broadened and is continuously evolving in complex maternity care, effectively caring for women despite their care pathway. Hannah has left us in no doubt that the future of midwifery is bright. We as autonomous midwifery practitioners are evolving all the time to meet the changing needs of women in society. If the midwifery profession was threatened, why would midwives be advancing in their careers and developing their skills? This is evident as seen in the role of the advanced midwife practitioner. The role of the midwife is not diminishing. We are not becoming obsolete. The National Maternity Strategy outlines the future of midwifery, the midwifery care in Ireland, and it is highlighted throughout that midwives are central to each care pathway. As I mentioned, the midwives support mothers and babies not just at birth, but throughout their whole pregnancy journey. As the Nursing and Midwifery Board of Ireland state, the midwife is the most appropriate care provider to attend women during pregnancy, labour and postnatally. Women and babies are at the heart of our care. Nadia gave the impression that we as midwives are scared. We are not scared. We are not scared of this diminishing normal birth rate. Our role encompasses normality and high-risk pregnancies in high complex maternity care. To give you some insight, we learn how to care for the critically ill woman, the pregnant woman in college. Claudia, you failed to mention in your definition of normal birth by the World Health Organization that both mother and baby are in good condition after delivery. Regardless of the birth outcome, we want to ensure that both mother and baby are well following the delivery of the baby. There is no fear or doubt or uncertainty in our future. The role of the midwife has advanced, and advanced midwife practitioners are welcome. Women with high-risk pregnancies can now be cared for midwives, and advanced midwife practitioners continuing their care by midwives. We have not lost trust in ourselves. The midwife's role extends far above and beyond providing care for low-risk women having normal vaginal births, as we have highlighted. Midwives have a significant role to play caring for women for all risk classifications, alongside our multidisciplinary team. Midwives work in partnership with women, whether they are having an uneventful low-risk pregnancy or deemed high risk. Despite the events that unfold for women throughout pregnancy, labour and birth, midwives are there to support, encourage and comfort women, their partners and their babies. Midwives don't simply just disappear when a woman's pregnancy or labour deviates from the normal mode of birth. In fact, our role is equally important, if not more important, when complications arise, as we have to continuously monitor maternal and fetal well-being, advocate on behalf of women and ensure women have informed decision when consenting to any of the necessary procedures. We maintain women's dignity and respect again, and we always will respect their choice. Ladies and gentlemen, adjudicators, I strongly urge you to oppose today's motion. Thank you.
Well, thank you all. I think it's been brilliant. So just to say, sorry, just hold on a minute. Just to say, you can relax now. You can take back your seats again. Just also to say, our judges are going off into a little room to have a chat, and they will decide the winning team and the best speaker. And good luck is all I say to the judges. And hopefully at this stage, we've got Fran McConville online. No?
I am here, Dawn, if you can hear me.
Oh, hi, Fran.
I put my camera up. I've been listening.
Yes, so Fran, you're most welcome. And Fran is from Geneva. We haven't got you on the screen yet. But listen, welcome to Cork. You're in a room with about 60, 70, 80 student midwives and midwifery lecturers and members of the board and visitors. And, you know, thank you very much for agreeing to speak. We're just sorting out some techie issues. Oh, Fran, there you are. I see you.
See me now. Good.
So before, oh, hi, Fran. So, Fran, before I start, perhaps I could just introduce you to the audience. So, you've been midwifery advisor for the WHO since 2013, and you're based in WHO headquarters in Geneva. And your focus is on addressing how women, newborns and their family can access quality, equitable and respectful midwifery care that strengthens women's own capabilities and prevents unnecessary interventions and ensures timely referral to emergency obstetric and newborn care if needed. And your work aims to support the 194 WHO member states to improve evidence-based quality midwifery care for all women and newborns and their family everywhere. Your work includes working with global partners to support research, advocacy, capacity building, ensuring the voice of midwifery leaders. And prior to the WHO, you were a health advisor to the UK's Department of International Development. And this included leading on maternal and newborn policy, as well as being the Department of International Development's health advisor in Bangladesh, as well as Somalia, based in Kenya. And this is built on 3 decades of development and humanitarian experience in sexual reproduction, reproductive, maternal and newborn health with UNICEF and IRFC, and a range of NGOs, non-government organisations, through living and working in Bangladesh, India, Burma, Malawi, Kenya, Somali and Iraq. You originally gained development experience as a VSO midwife in Bangladesh, and then through fieldwork in Africa, Asia and the Middle East, while being a lecturer of maternal and newborn health, gender and reproductive health at the University of Wales in Swansea. You are a midwife, you're a nurse, you have an MA in health economics and social policy, and a BSc Life Sciences, and you were recently awarded Honorary Professor of Practice at Queen's University. And I think the other string to your bow is you've got strong Cork relatives, isn't that right? So Fran, do take the stage.
Should I go ahead, Dawn?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. Well, firstly, thank you. I just want to thank you so much for inviting me. It's such a privilege and I'm really pleased to be here. I can't believe that debate. I wish we were having that debate. I wish you were in WHO headquarters to bring that debate to us, because it's there. You're reflecting a global debate, but you're far more articulate than many of the global players that we have. And I just take my hat off you. You student midwives, just absolutely fantastic. So you really did capture a global conversation spot on. I think it was brilliant. So so articulate. And I know the Director General of WHO, he believes that young people should lead the world. And if he could hear you, he would be listening to you. I can promise you, he would love it. So the other things, I wish I was in Cork with you. I'm really a bit annoyed that I can't come. I can't see you. All I can see is me, which is even worse. And I just think it would be so great to have actually met you in person. I can feel the energy in the room and I can feel how passionate you all are about something. And for me, that's fantastic, because this is a big bureaucracy that I'm sitting in at the moment, having been in many countries. So it's really fantastic to hear you speak. And I do have family from Cork. My brother lives in Dublin at the moment, and well, he's lived there all his life, basically. But I did look up my relatives from Cork, and being that it was that time in history that we know about, my grandmother was actually born in Aden. My other grandmother was born in Calcutta, and the one of them was, you know, she had 10 babies. She lost 4 under 2 years, and she died at 45, which is how things were then. But they certainly travelled, like many of us do, from Cork. So it'd just be great to be there. And actually, my youngest son is in Donegal at the moment on the west coast. So, you know, we're all over there. It's great. So I just wish I could meet up with you. So, oh yeah, the last thing is the most fantastic thing about that, of course, one of the most fantastic things is it means I'm going to get my Irish passport. So I'm really happy about that as well. So, Dawn, should I start my presentation? I've got just something, a sort of update, which I thought the student midwives might be interested in. And then I'm going to really look forward to hearing the outcome of the debate, because I have no idea how the judges are going to make a decision. It was so good. But should I share my PowerPoint now, Dawn?
Please.
Okay. I can hear an echo, so I'm just going to do what I think I have to do to share this on Teams. Get it up and then try and share it, because it's not, sometimes it works for me and sometimes it doesn't. So now I don't know that I can see. You can't, no, I don't think I'm showing the right thing now. Okay, we practiced this, so I'm sorry. It's the mark of a good midwifery leader to be able to use technology, and it's not working for me at the moment. Let me try again. I have my presentation open. On full screen, escape from it, and now I want to share it. I have shared it with Dawn in case I can't get it up myself. Tony, I'm afraid it's not coming up on the screen as we practice, so I'm going to just try one more time. Please talk amongst yourselves. I'm sorry about this. Something is not working. Just see.
Is why the profession of midwives will be critical in the 21st century, saving lives and ensuring compassion.
Right, again another route. I know all of you student midwives would be able to do this incredibly easy. Did practice. Okay, I'm doing it again, so I'm opening it up and then it should share. Let me just see why it doesn't put it in that.
I haven't seen it.
Tony, I'm really sorry it's not coming up and I don't know why. I don't know if you want to try and get it up. I can keep trying. Because it is open.
No, not this one, Dawn.
Yeah.
Do we not have it?
No.
Why would we wait? Johnny will get the phone call. I had to come to work. I had to come and answer nothing else.
Sorry, Dawn.
Sorry, Fran, this is Jerry here.
Great.
Yeah, can you, if you open your presentation on your screen and then just press share, it should come up. Because a while ago you just shared your email.
Yeah, but
so
it's not coming up. I don't know why. I don't know why it isn't. I'll try again.
Do we have the PowerPoint email to us, Dawn?
Yes. It's just not coming up. I have no idea why it's up. I'm so sorry.
At all. Okay, Dawn is just going to share it with Tony and he's going to organise how to.
Okay.
So it'll just take a few minutes. So if you'd like to just give a little bit of your background, friend, because you're just a wealth of experience and an expert in your field, that I'm sure that the audience would love to hear a little bit about it.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that while you're getting up, and I'm really sorry. It's some reason that I just can't get it up.
Everybody, can I just have your attention just for a moment, because technology it's part of some of the debate as well. Are we using too much or aren't we using too much? And here we just see how things just don't come to pass. So Fran is just going to talk a little bit about her experience and her work and what she does just while we're waiting for technology to be sorted. So we just have your attention for a few moments, and apologies again, the technology has failed us. But we
sorry, folks.
Here in person. Thank you.
So, as I said, I would far rather have been in Cork talking to you about it, but I just want to say to you all something, which is the best thing I ever did was become a midwife. And I'm in an organisation that I'm basically surrounded by doctors the whole time, and it has taken a long time to bring them on board to the midwifery agenda. And I think we all have opportunities to do different things, whether we want to do medicine or not. But being a midwife for me has been an act of feminism. It has enabled me to travel. It has enabled me to understand women from all around the world and deeply understand what they're going through. And I just think it is the world's best job, actually. So to all of you, I know it's seriously hard work. I think you're horribly underpaid, and the Director General will agree with me like that as well. But honestly, you are so trusted by women and so loved by women. And I think one of the things that we suffer from as midwives is, unless we're in the community and we're part of that community, we don't get their feedback. But I get it. I get it from women all around the world telling me how incredible the midwives are and how many lives they've saved and how many lives their babies have saved. So, huge thanks to you all in the room. And I think I'm just waiting for the slide to come up, so I'm waffling on a bit, but I'm really grateful to be in this position at WHO. It is 193 member states. So when we make a policy decision here, it influences globally. And WHO produces the recommendations, the guidelines, the evidence-based guidelines which certainly in England and other places go into the NICE guidelines, but really inform the evidence for midwifery. And we're really trying to bring out the midwifery in their recommendations, so that they're not all just about the medical side of pregnancy, childbirth, and postnatal care. So I think the other thing to say is I went off to Bangladesh in 1984 as a midwife. Of course, I didn't work as a midwife there. There were no midwives. There weren't places for midwives to be. I lived with destitute women in a slum in Dhaka. So Bengali became my second language. It was a bit rough, my Bengali, but and that's where I met a lot of Irish midwives who worked with concern, and we have remained friends forever. They taught me everything I needed to know about Bangladesh and about what was really needed for women, you know, and how we could care for them in the terrible circumstances in which we lived. And what I say to our Director General and people we work with all over again, and I'd really like you to say this to the Irish government, you are so respected in the midwifery world, and your voice really matters to what we do at WHO. And a lot of people don't understand that most countries in the world don't have a single midwife. And I keep trying to add up how many countries in the world have a midwife, and I can't get past 12 countries. So obviously UK, Ireland, Sweden, Norway, sort of, France, yes, but they're very, they lack autonomy. The Swiss midwives have a real struggle. The German midwives love what you guys do. The Italian midwives all want to come and work with us because they can do so much more. But when you move to Southeast Asia, no country has a midwife. When you move to Africa, they're all nurse midwives, and they really suffer from that. When you move to South America, there are no midwives, there are parteras, like traditional birth attendants and obstetrician. And when you move to the United States of America, very few states have midwives. They're still outlawed as they were in the 1700s and 1800s. So every time you feel a little bit downtrodden, and as we all do, and feel that it's such a struggle to be a midwife, just remember your global value and how much you are looked up to in the world in which I work in, and how much appreciated you are. Because I know you're having struggles. We are everywhere where there are midwives, but we really need you to keep going. So that's really important. I'd really like to hear some questions for you. I do have a big question for you afterwards, which I'm going to ask you now. Dawn, I think I'll ask now while I'm waiting for the slides, because I want to hear, I'm listening to your voices on the debate. I would really like to hear from you after this, what you would say to the Director General of WHO. What do you think that we should do, and what's your advice? Because he will listen to it. I'm listening to it, and I'm going to tell him. So I really want to hear what you have to say.
Well, maybe I could call the two people who spoke to rebut up to the stage. Would that be all right? And they can talk to you here. Would that?
Yeah, that would be nice, because I can't see. I can see you, Dawn, but I can't see anything else. I can see things.
Yeah, sorry. So Nadia and Laura, come on, Laura. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Thanks, Nadia. Thanks, Laura.
So Nadia, Laura will go first because she was supporting the motion.
Okay.
Nadia was opposing the motion.
Great.
So we'll do it that way, if that's okay.
No, that's perfect.
You okay? Are we getting there?
The International Confederation has a young midwife leadership program. And I think if any of you want to join, and the other thing is the Florence Nightingale Foundation has scholarships for young midwives as well.
Do I go straight to our presentation?
No, we'll just hold on. So, Fran, don't worry, we've got the presentation, but we'll get the students to just give a couple of sentences.
Perfect. And then we'll see what they think after the presentation.
Yeah. So, Laura, come on.
Nice.
Please take the mic, and you'll see Fran on the screen there.
Hi, Fran. Lovely to meet you. Laura is my own name, second year direct entry midwifery student here in UCC.
Super.
I would just love it if you could just repeat the question for us and for everyone here today, just so that it's fresh in our minds before we.
Okay. The Director General of the WHO really listens to young people. He is so supportive of midwives. He's the guy who introduced midwives into Ethiopia. He fought hard. He's not even a medical doctor, which is why he got midwives into Ethiopia. He will want to know what you think we should be doing in WHO. So what would your one message be to him? if you could, and you can, because I will get the message to him. What would you like to say?
Well, I think I have two main points that come to the forefront of my mind. The first one being we need midwives everywhere. Like midwives are just the absolute core of care for women in pregnancy and birth and labour, and they are just the be all and end all when it comes to caring for people. Like the scope that midwives, I think there's a very big diverse thing that's going on here that I see myself in clinical practice. I think in one area it's great that midwives can have this much scope and midwives can do so much, but I don't think that's really truly translating in reality. I think midwives are still quite constrained, particularly here in Ireland. I really do feel like us midwives, we are constrained to our environments. We are constrained to kind of the places that we work. I mean, the fact that we have 2 midwifery-led units here is super poor, like for the scope that we can have. So I think encouraging that midwives are able to do this. We are able to do this autonomously. We are midwives. We are professionals. And I think the second point that I think really ties into is women's choice. I think really the choices for women are quite poor at the moment. I think unless realistically here women are living within a certain radius of an obstetric unit, or they're super low risk, there is no options available to them. Like with just having 2 midwifery-led units, like where are the rest? You know, where are the rest, and why can't we be that little bit more autonomous when there is evidence out there to prove that this is just as safe, that this is just as safe as obstetric-led care? So I think they're really the two things that come to the forefront of my mind, and I'm sure the opposing team probably have other things, but I respect that too.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
You're incredibly articulate. That's amazing.
Nadia. So, Kayla. So the person who opposed, who did the rebuttal is Kayla, and she's got her notes with her. So.
Hello.
Hi, Kayla. Really look forward to hearing.
Thank you for coming on and talking to us today. So kind of picking up again on what Laura has said, probably the only thing that we're going to agree on, this whole debate. But I suppose we want to ensure that like we can like advocate and funding can be put into more midwifery-led units here in Ireland. So we've seen the benefits of the 2 midwifery-led units in Ireland. The statistics have proven that with less intervention and increased maternal satisfaction, along with a higher incidence of spontaneous vaginal deliveries. And even the women who start their delivery and start their care in a midwifery-led unit, even if they're transferred to hospital, their care is still not as intervened as it would be if they go straight into hospital in the first place. So I think that definitely needs to be taken into consideration. As midwives, I think what we ask is that we continue to be respected in our profession. We are respected, but I think we could be respected more. Yeah, and the women respect us, but I suppose we want every member of the multidisciplinary team to respect us and fulfill our autonomous role as midwives. And our autonomy should never be discontinued as midwives. It should only become more autonomous. And yeah, I think that's probably everything I have written down.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Oh, fantastic. Absolutely wonderful. So
now they were caught on the hop for that, and I think they did extremely well.
They did brilliantly, Dawn, and that's almost a policy brief for us now. Thank you very much.
So your slides are here, and Tony is going to get us going.
Thank you, Tony, and I'm really sorry. My technical skill should be better, but it's just not happening. I'm not quite sure what's not working. Great. So I just start now, and then Tony, I'll just say next slide, please. So just move on because that's me, and I've said a few words. Thanks. So I've just got a few parts to this presentation. I'm going to keep it brief. There's lots of pictures, so maybe more slides than words. But this is the Palais des Nations in Geneva. These are the flags of the 193 member states, and every year Ireland is here. That your Minister of Health is here, and others in the team from the ministry discussing with the WHO building, basically people like me, what should we do next? So we don't sit in Geneva and say this is what we think the world should do. Every year we bring the ministers together and they say COVID is our priority, this is our priority, midwives are our priority, etc. And we've had some really good midwifery sessions. at these events. And that's where your views, the global view, the evidence get shared with many countries who don't know about the evidence and don't know what's going on. So I'm just going to update you. I'm sure you know most of this, but just to say where we are. So next one, Tony, please. So just this picture, these two pictures for me sum it up. Because we had the Lancet series of maternal health in 2016, which said globally, never before in history have we been in the place where your debate is. It's really interesting that your debate really does reflect this global issue. That this cesarean section going on the left, I'm not sure what country it is, but I really hope that it was needed, because WHO recommends there should be about 10% of women get intervention, but we're finding in some parts of the world 70%, 73% women are having cesarean sections, and it's really become completely dangerous, frankly, because they're just done really instead of a birth, because people don't know enough about midwifery. So I really always hope that this was a necessary cesarean section and that it was done well. And on the right, here's a woman in Nepal. This is still how it is. You'd think that this was 1850, not 2022. But clearly no care. She's isolated. Nobody is accompanying her. And this is happening too often. It really, really is. So never before in history have we had this huge gap between too many resources for over-medicalisation and not enough resources for really good, hygienic, clean, compassionate, loving care for women and newborns. And where we're getting to now is that this poor quality of care is a bigger barrier to reducing mortality than not getting to care. So when I started in 1984, when I left being a midwife and moved to Bangladesh, the problem is we couldn't get women to the clinics. Now we're getting some of the clinics, some countries have 90% of women going to a clinic, which is fantastic. Then they get there and what they get is on the right, or what they get is on the left, but they're not getting the middle, the good midwifery quality care. And we're not reducing maternal mortality. India's maternal mortality is not coming down. It's got the highest maternal mortality per population in the world. It's just not coming down because we're stuck in this. Next one, Tony, please. And it's just a bit of evidence from the Lancet. And if you look at the top arrow, nearly half, no, over half of all neonatal deaths are now taking place in facilities. That should not be happening. We knew there were high numbers of neonatal deaths when there were so many home births and no care whatsoever. But we're getting the same numbers in facilities. Something is badly wrong. And you can see, I hate the fact they call it maternal diseases. I have a big fight with them over that. We're not a disease. But half of women are dying in facilities. They should not die when they get to facilities. They should be cared for. So this is our big global problem at the moment, the quality of care in the facility and how to seriously, quickly improve that. And midwifery is key to that. Next one. So this is the latest. I don't know if you guys saw this. The State of the World's Midwifery report came out. This came out in the Lancet Global Health, and it shows the latest modelled estimates updated from Lancet series on midwifery 2014, which was so groundbreaking. That changed everything. And it shows the potential impact of midwives in preventing and reducing maternal and neonatal mortality and stillbirths. Now, I won't go into all of this, but please keep these slides and look later. The people who wrote it at the bottom, so you can look up Lancet Global Health. But if we were literally to make sure universal coverage, so every woman had midwife delivered care, so delivered by a midwife, antenatal, childbirth, postnatal, we could avert 4.3 million lives a year by 2035. That's what the modelled estimates say. Now, for many countries to go from no midwives, Guinea-Bissau, Pakistan, to midwives is going to take 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It's taken, certainly England, 120 years, I heard today. If you look on the right-hand side, even if you did 10% increase in midwives who could deliver the care that should be delivered to women by midwives, you would save 1.3 million lives a year. So there is no doubt about the impact of midwives. And you have midwives in Ireland, but you have to think of countries that don't have a single midwife. And we're trying to help governments to get to the place where they even have a strategy to have midwives, let alone the education and everything that goes with it. Next one, please. Led by midwives, by the way, all this research, fantastic. So the State of the World's Midwifery report came out last year. It's the third one. I don't know if you saw the previous two, but we have come a long way, baby, on this. I can tell you from the original one 10 years ago. And we still have education and training. You can see that yellowy orange box as a big priority because we're not doing it right. We're not doing it to high quality. 50% of Midwives are educated by people who are not midwives, and 50% of midwife educators in countries like India have never seen a birth. So you can see that we start with poor quality. And we found also that about half of all education centres for nurses and midwives in low middle income countries have no water or sanitation, so they're not even learning the basics of infection prevention. And 1 in 4 babies are dying from infection. It's unbelievable. And 11%, 1 in 10 women are dying of infection still in 2022. It's crazy. So the second thing is really groundbreaking, this blue box. For the first time in history, we are saying we have to invest in midwifery leadership in government. I'm going to talk a bit more about that, but in the past it was, oh, we don't need midwife leaders, they should do what the doctors do. That discourse is changing. We are talking big time leadership, and it was really good to hear it come out in your discussion and what you think the DG needs to hear. The third one is workforce planning. Not enough midwives, not well planned, not well managed, and they have a terrible, terrible work environment. I know it's difficult for everybody, but some of them don't get paid for months, they don't have safe accommodation, they are getting sexually abused at night, and it's really difficult for them to continue. And they're paid so little, they have to keep a farm and do another job. I mean, they're just completely wiped out with exhaustion. And the last one, which is really nice because you've been talking about midwife-led units, is that the WHO, UNICEF and ICM, the International Confederation, of course, who put this together, we all agree that it's about midwife-led improvements. We've really got to move on that. So big changes in the language around midwifery, particularly coming out last year. So please use that in your debates in future when you're talking to your seniors, your ministers, and when you are a leader. Well, you are a leader already, quite clearly, but as you progress, please use this and use the language. Next one, Tony, please. So this is going back to the first slide with the picture of the Palais des Nations on the 193 flags. Last year at the World Health Assembly in May, this document, the Global Strategic Directions for Nursing and Midwifery 21 to 25, was endorsed, approved by all 193 member states. That means that not one country in the world disagrees that we need midwives. We never had that before. It's really fantastic. There were countries who said, oh no, we're very wealthy, we don't want midwives, obstetricians, etc. So there are 12 policy priorities, but basically it's all around jobs, it's all around education, and again, leadership and service delivery and decent work. So we are really making progress here. So each country, including Ireland, is meant to be working to this and reporting. Dawn, I don't know how much you're engaged, but I know you're engaged to the European Union, but reporting on indicators to show progress in these areas. So there's some really great high-level policies going on, but we've got to translate that to the poorest countries where women really, really need help. And the babies, far too many are dying, and far too many stillbirths as well. Next one, please. So I just want to, you can move on, Tony, but this now I'm just going to talk a little bit about that education headline. So at the World Health Assembly again in 2019, we launched this report in WHO. Many countries were there, and it was led by member states. Really important about how do we strengthen quality of midwifery education. It's not just about short training courses over and over again, and I got very frustrated by that. So we spent 3 years developing this, and the really good thing is we've got UNICEF, we've got UNFPA, and we've got the international confederations all on board, and we worked on it together. We cannot do this alone. We really have to come together and work on this. Next one. And the next one should show that what we came up with is a comprehensive strategic way to address education, particularly in low and middle income countries, where we have seen this repetitive training. Somebody comes in, they do a bit of training, they leave, 5 years later they come in, somebody else has done something else. People are very confused. It starts with step 1, leadership and policy. And that was so important. In fact, this informed those other strategy documents, because never before had we said, don't just start with training. Then we move on to get the right data and the right evidence about midwifery. In most countries, we use the health management information system. It's just how many maternal deaths are there, how many newborn deaths, how many stillbirths. We are going beyond that to really understand how many midwifery schools do you have? What are you teaching? What's in your curricula? Are you up to standard? Do you know the global evidence, etc.? Step 3, we have to bring on board obstetricians, paediatricians, parliamentarians, women. You know, if you go to countries like Bahrain, women want obstetricians, midwives are for, you know, street people. So we've really got to build the media. You guys mentioned the media. We have to bring the media on board everywhere. Then we really start to look at those educational institutes in step 4. Do they have water and sanitation? Do they have function? Most of them have no training materials whatsoever, a scrap from 1967 or something. and really get them effective online, internet, new models of teaching. Stop this didactic, I'm telling you what to do. Get really interesting activities going. Get the faculty up to speed. They're so sadly needing support and they want it. Get the standards and curricula to match what the country needs. I can promise you in northern Kenya, it's going to be about HIV, child marriage and malaria. Those are the things that are killing women. Very different to what we have in different countries. Make sure your education is up to standard, and then monitor, evaluate, review and adjust. As midwives, we have not been good at actually saying what works and what doesn't. We just want more money for training and we don't know if it's been effective or not. Next one. So I'm not going to stop here, Tony, don't worry, but you can see the 7 steps on the left. And the first time ever, we now have a monitoring framework looking at what activities could we do, what outputs do we want to get, what are the short-term outcomes and the long-term outcomes, and how do we measure? We will never get enough financial resources or human resources unless we can prove what did we do, did it work or not, what could we have done better, and how much did it cost? So this is some of the leadership work we're doing to try and really build in with Ministries of Health and the government chief nursing midwifery officers, how you can really build a comprehensive strategic programme with monitoring and evaluation. Next one. We took this framework to 6 countries. If you know anything about geography, you can see that it's very difficult to get the arrows in the right place. But these were Bolivia, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Pakistan, Malawi and India. Fantastic countries to work in and to be with. But all of them made a policy decision to move towards a midwifery model of care from where they were before the project, which was we don't have midwives, we don't know if we want midwives. So this is a big policy decision to change the whole process at national level to getting a midwifery cadre and all the things that need to happen around that. Next one. So we've been working on this for the last 18 months. We couldn't do all 7 steps. We didn't have enough resources. We'd rather do more countries and get the discourse going. So we started with leadership and policy, looking at strengthening leadership, aligning it, establishing a national midwifery task force. Those 6 countries now have national midwifery task force. It is amazing, and it's led by the government chief midwife. We've reviewed and updated policy, and we've looked at barriers, including gender, hierarchy, power, voice, and agency. It's been really exciting. Next one, please. I won't go through all of this, but for the first time ever, we've taken those high-level recommendations on leadership, and we developed a tool to find out what's going on in leadership in your country. Now, somebody mentioned here in your debate that the individual leader did something, whatever, but what we learned from this, it's not about saying you're not good as a leader, as a midwife. It's about saying we can all improve our personal leadership skills, including me on technology. But really, it's about the system you work in, because the systems around us as midwives and nurses have not been developed historically to support our leadership. So we are all working, whether you're Dawn or whether you're somebody else, we're all working against a system that enables us to become leaders and enables us to be empowered and work together to ensure midwifery leadership from students all the way up to the chief nursing midwifery officer. So we have to remember it's not our fault personally, we can all do more, but there's a lot here. So we did develop these midwifery leadership profiles. We assessed the current state of midwifery leadership in the countries. They're using that, they found strengths and weaknesses, they've created a baseline, they looked at policy leadership, development and training leadership, climate change, maternal death surveillance and review, they looked at helping forces, hindering forces, gender hierarchy, and the process itself was incredibly empowering. Those midwives came together to talk about leadership in a way they'd never had done before. We're hoping to publish that, so there's going to be a global how-to guide for countries who want to relook at their leadership, come together, unite as midwives and see what they can do. So we've got to get on with that publication and get that out quickly. Next one. So I just want to say that Margaret Peary is the most amazing midwife in Malawi. I've known her for many, many years, and she's worked in many countries in Africa as well. They love her. They call her sister wherever she goes. And this is what we interviewed her. And this is what she said she has the most wonderful voice, by the way. I can't repeat it, but you can read it yourselves. But she says doing this leadership profile has been one of the most wonderful experiences that she's ever had. It's something that we're doing the first time. It's given the midwives in Malawi the opportunity to determine for themselves who are the midwifery leaders we have, where are they, what are they doing, what are the challenges that they really experience. And it's been a revelation for us all in Malawi to have this kind of exercise. And our hope is that we will have a living document so we can use it for planning in the future, updating it regularly in terms of how we can continue to develop leadership. She's a really inspiring leader, Margaret. Next one, please, Tony. So it really had a big gap. Very quickly, we looked at different data. We mapped and documented who's doing what in midwifery education and leadership. It's a mess. Everyone's coming in, organisations are all doing a little bit. If we could pull together, led by ministry with one plan, one strategy, we would really move, but we need to work on that. We looked at desk reviews on facilitators and barriers to education. There are many. We conducted a gap analysis in the midwifery education standards of ICM. We found some countries had completely ignored newborn. It's incredible. It just wasn't there. And especially countries with very high newborn mortality rates. It was really a good exercise. Next one. So it's really, we learnt that it was really worth doing that. Now we introduced this WHO Interprofessional Midwifery Education Toolkit. I became very frustrated when I got to WHO. Everything was about obstetrics. Everything was about PPH. Everything was about long, obstructive labour. There was nothing about good, really good midwifery care for women. So we're bringing it all together in one place around a midwifery model of care. It's all evidence-based. We're developing courses based on the WHO guidelines for antenatal, childbirth, postnatal, sexual reproductive health, and most importantly, cross-cutting modules on respectful care, which we really need to work on. The abuse that's going on out there is appalling. Perinatal mental health care really hasn't been addressed, and leadership. And then we're putting in the access to all the other courses. It's exciting. It's not sit down at a desk. This is get up, do role play, do teamwork, do activities, find the evidence, think about how you could apply it. Why doesn't it work? What can you do, etc. We'll let you know when that comes out. It's coming. Next one. All of that course, these are some of the guidelines and recommendations that are in that course, and we use the guidelines. We get them to find the evidence. They didn't know it was there. We get them to look at what's happening. So intrapartum care guidelines, standards for improving quality of care, the new labour care guide that replaces the partogram is very good, counselling, and the pregnancy childbirth care. Just some of the documents that we have in there. Next one, Tony, please. This is what it looks like. We've had it graphically designed, so we're really getting close, and it will be on the website. So whether you're in Ireland or whether you're going to other countries, it's really worth looking at this and using some of the innovative activities. There's loads of videos. So even if you just want to look at birth in Nepal or look at birth in Ghana, go into this and you'll find these teaching videos. They're fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Next one, please. So what came out of this whole project, trying to introduce that toolkit and looking at all these steps, was we really can and must strengthen leadership and look at policy. We found in India, that's just launched 2 years ago, a strategy to introduce a cadre of midwives for the first time. 12 other policies do not support that policy. So we've really got to look at all the policies to make sure that they support the midwife. We must improve the coordination of partners. Money is being wasted while we're not coming together. And that's a WHO issue to bring people together with the Ministry of Health. Normally WHO offices are based in the Ministry of Health. The private sector, we have missed out. They have big money for midwifery, and we need to maximise that partnership and make sure they're properly regulated, because the quality of care in private sector is not necessarily better. We know that. We learned that we need to find much more about midwifery in countries. It's not just going in and training. We've learned that we've got to get sustainable financing. We can't just have one project here and one project here. I've been around long enough to know since 1984, nothing really changes, just lots of projects. We really need 5, 10, 15 years, 20, 50 to make sure this happens. And the last thing that comes up that I'm going to talk to you about is the serious interest and need for more information on climate change and midwifery, especially for you students, because it's going to affect you. I'm so sorry, but it's going to affect you more than it affected us. So I'm just going to move on to that now. I hope I'm not going too much over time, Dawn. So just next couple of slides, please. So the real problem about climate change is the impact. And we as midwives are going to have to get with this programme pretty quickly. And the biggest impact on women is preterm birth. We're going to see a lot more of that with heat, a lot more stillbirths and effects on the brain development of the baby. So there's lots we can do. This actually comes from, I borrowed somebody else's slide. We can no longer ignore the climate impact. We've got to reduce pollution emissions. We've got to divest from fossil fuels, and we've got to reduce toxic exposure. So there's a lot that we need to know about, advocate for, but there's also things we can do. So the next slide shows what we could start to do. And if you look at this, your classic clinic in Africa has got a dark tin roof. There's no window in it, very little ventilation. There's no access to water for the woman. So it's attracting the heat. I mean, I worked in Somalia. It was fantastic once you put a solar panel up, but otherwise it was really difficult even to be there. And in fact, they couldn't even do cesarean sections in the main hospital until we put massive number of solar panels to cool it down. But if you do simple things, you plant trees, got to start doing that now. You get a fan, you make sure there's spray water to cool the woman down, you make sure she's drinking, and you paint the roof white. You can really reduce the temperature, put in a window. You can really make it better for women so they don't have heat distress during labour. So there's loads of this, but that was just one example. So Tony, if you go to the next one, just a brief summary, that all the way we have to do this from preconception all the way to postpartum, including thinking about when people conceive and give birth, not giving birth in the hot season, focus on high risk women, avoid extreme heat, a lot of hydration, and we are getting a lot more sepsis, including during breastfeeding, but also amongst neonates and women. You think of unnecessary, the episiotomies, I heard somebody say that, it's a WHO recommendation that a episiotomy should not be routine. We have antimicrobial resistance, very high temperatures, the infections are terrible. So there's lots that we can do, so we mustn't get despondent, but as midwife leaders, we've got to get on top of this agenda and know what to do, including in Ireland, of course. Next one. So I'm just coming to the end now, and I just want to let you know, this is the WHO Global Community of Practice for Nurses and Midwives. We felt it was launched this year by the Director General. It comes out of our Chief Nursing Midwifery Office. Go online and join it. You will see everything that's happening on nursing and midwifery. There's been a series, for example, of webinars on climate change. We're building it up. It's still new. Add your voice, join a group, say what you like, set up an Irish student midwife debate group or something. You can do anything. And if it's a country you're interested, you can connect them. And Emily McWhirter, you can see her email there. Do contact her individually. She's really fantastic and is a midwife too. So we'd love to have the Irish midwives having their own place on there to share what they're doing, their issues, what you're doing, but also to engage and help advise us on some of the other things that are going. And I think I've just got 1 or 2 more slides left, which is the future. And I'm very excited about this, so I decided to add this slide. A couple of years ago, our department, the Maternal Newborn Child Health Department, WHO, where I work, set up this global strategic technical advisory group of experts for maternal newborn child health. It's called the STAGE, and it addresses very high level issues that are burning public health issues, and midwifery was one of them. And so I had to give a presentation on the evidence, and we felt that we needed guidance for many countries now who want to transition to a midwifery model of care, not just have a bit of training here and a bit of training there. It's very complex. It's taken you many decades to get to where you are. This is not something we know that happens in 2 or 3 years of one donor budget. So we now have a global recommendation that we're working on, and we have started to convene a STAGE working group, bringing together key stakeholders, UNICEF, UNFPA, many NGOs and women and midwives. And we had to make sure midwifery representation was in there, otherwise it would have all been academics and doctors. So we got those words in to develop this implementation guidance to support countries. And so it's really fantastic that we're going to be able to move forward on this. And we will have an agenda for evaluation of implementation. So this is really a very big global step forward. No arguments about whether you need a midwife or not. If you want to have a cadre of midwives and a midwifery model of care, we are going to help. It's going to be very interesting where we start from nothing, no doctor, no midwife, that's Guinea-Bissau, nothing at all, not an obstetrician, paediatrician, midwife or nurse, to countries that are getting there like India, to countries like Ireland, UK, New Zealand and others. So I think my last slide is to say a huge thank you to you for listening. And I'm talking really fast, but I know you do as well. And I'm just hoping that you heard everything I said, because if I speak to a more global audience, I have to slow down. But honestly, heartfelt thank you to all Irish midwives, from women, from newborns, from families all around the world. We really mean it. And from the Director General, if he could have, he would have come on to thank you. But he tells me to say thank you to you every time I speak. So all of us at WHO. Fantastic. Thank you so much. And then Tony, the last slide was that question, which I think we've already answered.
Thank you, Fran, very much. We're hoping to get you back on screen again. Just to say, perhaps you'll stay for the, we've got the results here, and we'll have you in the background. So can I call Asim and Denise up, please? And Jerry, can I call you up, please, as well? Listen, and the ladies, students, come on, take your seats. Come on, Nadia, Laura, Kayla, Claudia, Anna, and Leah. Can we get a big round of applause? So, Denise, please, we're in suspense.
I'm going to keep you in suspense a little bit longer because I think we might just give the certs first to each of the students.
I shall be the hostess.
And then we'll announce the winners after that.
All right. So, first of all, Nadia, congratulations. Laura. Claudia. Leah. Kayla. Oh, no. Hannah. And finally, Kayla.
Okay, so just going to keep you in suspense just for a little bit longer. I can hear the heartbeats beginning to rise over there. So first of all, just to say what an honour it has been from the judging panel to be part of the debate. The first things I scribbled down was OMG. So that is a testament to how you swayed us in your arguments today. So first of all, a few comments from the judges. And first of all, we want to congratulate you all. You were all winners in our eyes. And if we could, we'd make sure there was an even spread, but there has to be one winner, I'm afraid. So first of all, congratulations on the robust argument, on the articulation and the eloquence in your articulation of those arguments, on the respectful manner in how you did that, and also on the engaging manner and the thought-provoking manner. And certainly something Sarah took out of it, and we had a bit of debate up above, a respectful debate up above in terms of some of the comments. You were all very convincing in your arguments. You certainly weaved the evidence in, very informative, truly inspiring, true advocates for the women that you're caring for. And please don't ever lose that desire and willingness and stance that you have committed to being with women, because you are true advocates and you're displayed that today with us. A credit to your family, a credit to your clinical colleagues and your mentors and your educationists as well. You're here representing your peers, and I certainly hope your peers are very proud of you because you represent them extremely well. So congratulations. As I said, you're all winners. We have had to make a decision, and we have decided that the winning team is, and some of you will be surprised to hear this from the midwives that are on the panel, it's the opposing team. And when I say that, you had two midwives on the panel that were very much pro the proposing team until we were swayed otherwise, I think, Mary, in fairness. And then from Sarah's perspective, the evidence that you used to ground your thinking and your thoughts and to persuade us So congratulations in terms of that. So well done. And then, of course, which we didn't want to do, we had to nominate a winning speaker. As I said, you're all winners. And I mean, we've been charged with doing this, so we do this. And congratulations to everybody. But we have identified somebody who we felt was just a little bit more special than everybody, but you are all special. Guess who's a mum of a boy? A teenage boy coming at that stage. But congratulations to Kayla, and well done.
So, just something we prepared earlier.
That's all right. Okay. Okay, so we've just just a couple of other people. Sarah Benson, thank you very much. We also have some flowers for you, and I think you reminded us, in our working life as midwives and in our life in society, domestic violence has no boundaries, and there is support there, and people will access it when they know about it, but they need to know about it. Thank you so much for the work you do for these women and for speaking to us today. And,
So just a little bunch of flowers.
Thank you. And Mary, please take the stage as well. And I think it's been great having Mary here. And Mary has a long history, not just with midwifery, but she also served on committees with NMBI, which finished quite recently, and was very tireless in her work there and very committed to it. So thank you, Mary, for coming today. So if you bring the flowers over to the scene. Okay, well, actually, the next flowers are actually for you, Jerry. Can I just say, Jerry has been a wonderful organizer, enthusiastic, very passionate about it all. She really should go into wedding planning and whatnot. And thank you very much for hosting us today, and it's been great. I'd also like to thank your students. I'd particularly like to point out your students in the blue tops, whether you've been welcoming us, timing, keeping the judges in their room or in their box or whatever it is, and thank you so much, and to all the students who've come today. And as Denise has said, you are ready to take up the challenge. You've so eloquently debated, argued your point, and as I feel you are really a credit to yourselves and your School of Nursing. But behind you all are the unsung heroes, and Denise is going to get annoyed, but what about it? Your lecturers who put in so much work, not just to support you today, but during your course, and I think they particularly deserve applause. And just two last things. Seeing this as you're coming to your end of your term, boss, you've always taken a special interest in this debate and have always come to it. And just want to say thank you too very much as well. And Denise, your term of office comes to an end, and you have worked for the Midwives Committee. And I think you've been, you deserve huge thanks for what you do. So thank you very much. And you're embarrassed, and you won't stand up. And so Before I hand over to Sheila now, just like to confirm that UCD have agreed to host the next year's debate, and the debate is to be confirmed. So we'll see you all in Dublin's Fair City. And I'm just going to pass you on to Sheila now, who's our CEO, and she's been listening very closely to the debate, and I'm going to ask her to provide closing comments, please.
Okay, everybody, but look, I know everybody has been sitting in the room here for a couple of hours, or at least most of the panelists or the judges got out for a wee while, but so I'll not keep people. It's just, it makes me laugh, the students' debate, and obviously you'll not be students the next time it comes round, but it's always a mystery tour for all of us because we never really know what's going to happen. It's always a bit, because it's just good fun. We need to, we get here and then we have to sit still and listen. And whenever you do that, you think, oh my goodness, you can feel, and Donna's been telling me about the amount of effort that has gone into this. And that's why she's mentioning the lecturers, because I think she's been getting calls as they've been stressed by you've been being stressed. They've been ringing her then. So, you've done absolutely brilliant. It's so inspiring to hear you. The way you had it timed, and you didn't even seem to be rushing towards the end. The rest of us would all be totally panic struck to get your information out. And the different tones and the communication skills, absolutely phenomenal. So is Fran still here? No, she gone?
I am, yes. I can hear you.
The eye in the sky from Geneva. Yeah. So Fran, I want to respond to what you've been pointing out to us, just as the board, for a couple of minutes. We are on a journey to a new strategy, which is not maybe just as ambitious in relation to taking on the world as your strategy, but we have tried over the last number of years to increase student numbers, and the system has worked with us, and all the players are here today. The HSE is here, and the leadership of nursing and midwifery in the teaching side of it, with Margaret in the audience. So the numbers have increased in capacity terms by 35%. Now, there are lecturers in this room who are basically saying they're broken because they've taken on so many students and they're trying to place them, but that we still need to keep working on that. And the department has produced a document recently, a systems dynamic document, a bit of controversy because it didn't maybe mention midwifery enough, but if we get past that, the intention is there obviously to look after midwifery too. But that shows that we have to follow, at best, a Netherlands model of growth. There's an Australian model that's put in, but it's very ambitious for where we're starting. But we are going to be pursuing that, and we're going to work with the department to do that, which means we will have to find year-on-year growth in numbers in the different pathways, and that obviously includes midwifery. Midwifery is identified as an area of significant need and weakness at the minute in relation to numbers. We do have people in the system, but the profile of age is concerning, and I know that a lot of the directors of midwifery are very concerned about the actual capacity in their wards at the minute. So we are really proactively trying to come up with imaginative ways to find new site capacity and new placement capacity, and that's our job as the regulator. So we are doing our best on that front. And on the front, I think it was you, Leah, said about went through a whole profile of the change, obesity, ageing mothers. Again, we're going to be doing a curricular review, which will look at all of that to try to make sure that we are demographically moving with the pathway of the patient and the mother and the families. So we are trying to keep ahead, Fran, but I'm sure maybe you'll be watching over us like a guardian angel now. So we better not steer too far off beat and try to keep as progressive as possible. But we are trying to do that as a regulator. We're trying to be totally connected with the times, and that's why we love doing these debates. This is one of Dawn's main focuses for the year, is about how we connect with the younger cohort of midwives coming through and keep them, because another one of our priorities is to make sure that you do stay in the system. So we are going to find ways to know when you move, and we'll find you out, especially if you decide you're going to drop off the register, because we do have you now on this register that we do have technology behind. So all in all, it is about creating great, passionate young midwives, and then ensuring that we keep them to enrich the health service that we're so proud of. So I hope that's enough from me, because I'm sure you're all totally fed up with and your bums are sore. Just to say, have a lovely weekend, and to extend my thanks to all the players that were in this, leading up, of course, with Dawn and my colleagues on the board and my team at the back, but the UCC and all the players that have played, and you too, Fran, for your great contribution. So thank you.